Next story. Next story. We have this for you guys. Trump's full court press against Orwellian European censorship intensifies amid U.S. efforts to unleash AI. The Trump administration has been on a months-long campaign railing against what it says are draconian censorship regulations in Europe that have not only stifled free speech, but have also served as another roadblock amid the artificial intelligence revolution. In Europe, thousands are being convicted of the crime of criticizing their own governments. The State Department recently posted to X, accompanied by a graphic slamming Europe's Digital Services Act, DSA, this Orwellian message won't fool the United States. Censorship is not freedom. The EU adopted DSA in 2022 to regulate online platforms such as social networks, content sharing platforms, and app stores, and is intended to prevent illegal and harmful activities online and the spread of disinformation. The law has since faced opposition from the Trump administration amid its free speech promotion and on the global stage. Yeah, so what this law does, guys, it's not just illegal content. If it was just illegal content, that makes sense. Like, you know, content where you're defaming someone, slandering, gruesome depictions of things, child abuse, stuff like that. If it was just that, I'd be like, yes, boom, get rid of that stuff immediately, punish the sites that won't remove it. Awesome. That's not what we're talking about, of course. We're talking about the EU, where we've been talking about for the past couple of years now, where in places like Germany and Europe and just, well, all of Europe, really. Germany is a place in Europe. All of Europe, you post things on social media and you could face fines or even jail time for things like disinformation or hate speech. What is either of those? Well, that's dependent entirely upon the person bringing the charges to you. You offended me? That's hate speech. You said a slur of some kind? Hate speech. But, I mean, people like to say that there's no actual definition of hate speech. I'll tell you what hate speech is. Hate speech is slurs. Basically, they don't want you to say slurs that are unapproved by the rest of society. There are slurs that you can use that are completely approved by society. No one's going to bat an eye at you using them. For example, I'm glad to be a part of the generation that has the first ever slur for robots. What's up, my clankers? That's socially acceptable to say clanker and clanka, even though that's technically a slur for robots. But that would be hate speech if I were talking to a robot, technically, right? But who cares? Hate speech is also protected speech under the Constitution. So my hate speech is also protected speech. Go screw yourself. So you shouldn't be policing people's speech. If you don't like what I'm saying, don't read it. You don't have to listen to it. Move on with your life. And then disinformation. Well, you know, disinformation can depend widely, because if we're speculating on something, then it's just that, speculation. You can't call it disinformation if we're speculating on something that's not confirmed. But if we do have confirmation on something and something can be provable without a shadow of a doubt, and then you're saying something to the contrary, then yes, that's disinformation. However, I think people should be able to say it because people are allowed to be wrong. So this whole law is just draconian, as they say. The State Department X post follows a months-long campaign. I read that already. Fox News Digital spoke with Darren Biede, acting Under Secretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs, who explained that the Trump administration takes a hatchet to the restrictions and censorship, most notably online and left over from the Biden era. Europe has moved to intensify its censorship with laws such as the DSA. As we are rolling back the censorship industry in the United States by actions like what the State Department did, what we did at the State Department killing the Global Engagement Center, but it's happening all across the administration. What's happening is in Europe, the European Union and the UK are moving to pick up the slack. That is to say, as we're pushing back the censorship regime domestically, it's intensifying in Europe. The Global Engagement Center was an office established within the State Department during the Obama era that was plagued by accusations of censorship while positioning itself as focused on countering foreign propaganda and disinformation. The Trump administration State Department shuttered the office earlier in 2025. Good. Biede added that the U.S. is not taking a holier-than-thou approach to the issue, noting that censorship loomed large throughout the U.S. under the Biden administration. He pointed to such cases as social media user Douglas Mackey, who was convicted in 2023 of conspiring to suppress voter turnout in 2016 after posting phony voting messages. I don't like the way that they frame that there. What Douglas Mackey actually did was he posted a meme, which, yes, did have a wrong phone number, but said something like, oh, make sure you vote early, vote now by texting this number. I'm sorry, but if you fall for that, you don't deserve to vote. That's my opinion. That's a litmus test for whether or not you deserve to vote. If you fall for that, you absolutely should not be voting. Please do not vote. Please do not. I met someone who's actually like not politically involved recently, and she actually said that she purposefully does not vote because she knows that she would be voting, without any idea on what she's voting on. And I was like, thank you, because a lot of people will just vote because they feel like they need to vote a certain way. But this person was like, no, I just don't vote. But now she did have opinions on certain things policy-wise, but she was like, I don't read what I'm actually voting on, so why would I vote? I appreciate that. I wish more people did that. But back to Douglas Mackey. Yeah, he didn't do anything wrong, and they targeted him very arbitrarily. We were, under Biden, moving in that direction in a very dangerous way. The weaponization of government that occurred under Biden was severe. President Donald Trump delivered his highly anticipated AI speech at the end of July, unveiling his administration's plan of action, which included protecting AI systems from bias. The White House Office of Science and Technology Policy Director Michael Kratsios previewed the plan to the media, which included warning that the U.S. will not go down the same technology path as Europe, citing its strict regulations on the tech. Good. Yeah, no, we need to be at the top and the forefront of AI. I talked about this on my previous show Wednesday. AI is a weapon, man. I mean, AI is absolutely a weapon. Whoever gets it first is going to have a super weapon that they can use on the rest of the world. So absolutely, we need to be the first to do that. There were arguments a few years ago about possibly having restrictions on it, but we were never going to get these other countries to agree to restrictions on it. So the goal always should have been following that. Immediately upon realizing that, the goal needed to be, okay, if you aren't stopping, no one else is stopping, we'll do it first and we'll do it the best. That is always what the United States has done, and that's what we need to continue to do in order to be the best. That's my opinion. Anyway, I want to move to this next section of the story. This is within the same vein of what we were just talking about. Exclusive: Rubio orders the U.S. diplomats to launch lobbying blitz against Europe's tech law. So it looks like President Donald Trump's administration has instructed U.S. diplomats in Europe to launch a lobbying campaign again to now build opposition to the European Union's Digital Service Act, which Washington says stifles free speech and imposes cost on U.S. tech companies. An internal diplomatic cable seen by Reuters showed. In a State Department cable dated August 4th, signed by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the agency said that the EU was pursuing undue restrictions on freedom of expression in its efforts to combat hateful speech, misinformation, and disinformation, and the DSA was further enhancing these curbs. The EU's DSA is a landmark law meant to make the online environment safer and fairer by compelling tech giants to do more to tackle illegal content, including hate speech and child sexual abuse material. See how they rope that in there? They realized that they couldn't get us on just hate speech, so now they're trying to tie hate speech to illegal content and child sexual abuse. That's what they're trying to do. They're like, oh, sorry, guys, we can't get them on the speech laws, but if we start tying the speech laws into child abuse and other illegal content, maybe then we can get it in there. And it looks like it's working. Disgusting. Yeah, Trump has made combating censorship, particularly what he sees as stifling of conservative voices online, a major theme of his administration. It goes on to talk about, let's see, the cable whose headline described as an action request tasked American diplomats across U.S. embassies in Europe with regularly engaging with EU governments and digital services authorities to convey U.S. concerns about the DSA and the financial cost of U.S. companies. I mean, good. I don't need to read the whole article. Just to break it down for you guys, essentially what it's saying here is that we are now lobbying these European countries to now go back on this law, which they absolutely should. I don't like that our allies are going in the way of fascism and communism, whatever you want to call it. it goes far enough in one direction or the other, it ends up being the same thing anyway. You get too much fascism, you go too far in the direction of fascism, it's the same outcome as communism. Go in too far in the direction of communism is the same outcome as fascism. Basically, your rights get trampled and no one wins except for the few rich and powerful. So yes, absolutely. Let's get rid of this law. Let's lobby our allies to get rid of laws like this. I'm all for it. I'm absolutely for it.